Hello Motor Rider World fans, and welcome to this first episode of Talking World Superbikes for 2023, a week before the season opener at Phillip Island. They've just completed the first test on Monday at Phillip Island. I'm just going to take you through just my thoughts and observations, not only from the first couple of tests that they've had already this season. They've been out at Jerez, Portimao, and now Phillip Island, but also just go through each individual rider and teams and just what to expect, what not to expect, and what's going to unfold potentially in what is, I think, going to be one of the most exciting World Championships that we've ever seen. We've got more riders coming in. It's certainly livened up the paddock a little bit. So there's so much to talk about in this Talking World Superbikes episode. Let's start off then with the world champions. Of course, that man, Alvaro Bautista, returned to Ducati after 2 miserable years at Honda HRC, let's be honest. And did what we all expected him to do the first year he was with Ducati in World Superbikes. Dominated. The V4R is the machine to beat. Alvaro Bautista on that machine is the rider to beat, and they proved it last year. It was a consistent, mature performance from Alvaro Bautista in 2022. All those kind of mistakes and that he made in his first season that cost him the World Championship, let's be honest. He kind of got rid of those. He said he came back as a new rider. He fully focused, understood what he needed to do to become a world champion, and Ducati gave him the tools to do that. And it was a great move. Listen, I was one of those guys that said when Ducati brought him back, why, you had the options of Petrucci, and there were so many other options, and Ducati stuck by their guns. They went for Alvaro Bautista. I think Alvaro in many ways maybe just bit the bullet a little bit and had to put his head between his legs, because we all know that the relationship wasn't the greatest when he left for Honda. So they all put their differences aside, came together, and ultimately won the World Superbike Championship. Heading into the 2023 season, I think Alvaro and Ducati are once again the favourites. He's got the number 1 plate on, and it's going to be a tough ask to beat them once again. Alvaro Bautista, obviously one of the smaller stature riders in the category. A lot was made of this rider weight penalty that should be brought in. Scott Redding behind that, saying he's this 6 foot something giant with legs the size of tree trunks because of all the cycling and that he does, and he's trying to compete against this tiny little figure that is Alvaro Bautista, a perfect jockey for motorcycle racing. World Superbikes have dismissed those. They've said they are not going to be bringing in a rider bike weight limit type thing. So it's just get on with the game and go race, and may the best man win. Yes, Alvaro Bautista has a massive advantage with his stature on that ridiculously fast Ducati Panigale V4R. But as I've mentioned in previous episodes of Talking World Superbikes last year, you can't go penalize Alvaro Bautista because of his genetics, and you can't penalize Ducati because they've got this fantastic motorcycle. And that combination just works. As if you look at all the documentaries that have come out with regards to Alvaro Bautista and his return to Ducati, the perfect combination, that is the words that have been put together for Alvaro and the Ducati, and it proved itself in 2022, and I think it's probably going to prove itself again in 2023. I don't think it's going to come as easy, that's for sure, but certainly it's the combination still to beat in the World Superbike Championship. They've made a couple. It's a new bike. It's an updated Panigale V4R for the 2023 season. So a little bit of testing still going in that. Alvaro Bautista, he tried out the 2022 bike and the 2023 bike back to back at Jerez. Said there were a couple of little changes that he could feel, but ultimately was right on the pace. In all the testing at Portimao, he dominated. In Phillip Island today, Monday, in the testing, he was 3rd overall. So yeah, and we know Bautista's strengths not necessarily just outright fastest lap time on new tires. It's how he manages over a whole race distance. Obviously, being a lighter weight rider, not as much pressure on the tires. I think his riding style is quite smooth. He manages to combine braking late with good corner speed and good exit speed. The Ducati helps him in that regard because that's the strong points of the Ducati as well. So again, just the perfect combination. You're going to hear that. You're going to hear me say that, and commentators and everyone say that a lot when it comes to Alvaro Bautista and Ducati. So it's the perfect combination, and it's up to the others to try and break that combination. So could the fact that there is this updated Panigale for 2023 throw a spanner in the works a little bit? I don't think so. I still think Alvaro has the motivation to still go. Although saying that, he poured a lot of energy into the 2022 season, and we've seen many champions before, win one world title and they can't do it again. Tom Sykes, Sylvain Gintely, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of mentality, and a lot of physical energy to put in a world championship like Alvaro did. One of the older riders now, I still think he's capable of winning the World Superbike title. So, still the man to beat. Number 1 plate on the bike. Well done, Alvaro. Well done, Ducati. And got that giant, it's not really a giant target because it can only be that big on the back of the tiny rider that is Alvaro Bautista, but still very much the man, the machine, the manufacturer, and the combination to beat. His teammate, Ruben Rinaldi, I think has also got a massive target on his back, because that full factory Ducati ride, a lot of riders want that. And in my opinion, some other riders should have potentially got that ride this year. Ducati have stuck with Rubens Rinaldi, Italian rider in an Italian team. He's shown glimpses of what he can do, but on that machine, he just hasn't been anywhere near, certainly, the performances of Alvaro Bautista. But when he's on it, he's on it. We've seen him all of a sudden, like Aragon rounds and that, where he just wakes up and you can't touch the guy. So Ducati will want to try and extract that Rinaldi as much as possible. Rinaldi, coming into the 2023 season, has made personal changes as well. He's spent a lot of time with Andrea Dovizioso. I personally saw him spending a lot of time with Dovizioso last year in the MotoGP paddock, in the part of the With You team. He was there quite often, always alongside Dovizioso. He's teamed up now with Dovizioso's management and trainer as well. So he really has changed his whole camp vibe, changed his whole mentality and physicality, his training methods, everything coming into the 2023 season, because he knows he's got to prove himself. He says he wasn't happy with finishing 4th, and so he shouldn't be. So he needs to make that next step now. He's had a couple of seasons now in World Superbikes, I should say. And it's time to prove his worth in that factory Ducati ride, because there's a lot of riders that'll want to jump on that bike, especially with Alvaro just creeping up in age. Ducati will be looking for the next Alvaro, the next man to take them to the world title, and Rinaldi will want to be that man. In testing, he's looked really good. You can see that step. You can see in his eyes he's made that step. He's more focused. He's more determined. And it's time to prove it now out on track. It's time to get those results. He had a good job in the winter testing. Perez Portimao was really good for him as well. Portimao actually led day 1 ahead of Bautista, which was very impressive. And now at Phillip Island on the Monday test, he's second fastest and leading Ducati ahead of Bautista there. So everything pointing in the right direction for Rinaldi. He's just got to get those results now. Let's have a look at the Yamaha team, and there's so many of them. So we'll start with the factory team, the more factory supported team. Let's just say Toprak Razgatlioglu lost his world title last year. I still think he's probably the fastest man in World Superbikes. Absolutely love watching that man ride a motorcycle. And not only on TV, I was able to go to a couple of World Superbike rounds last year, and seeing him ride that Yamaha in the flesh it's just a sight to behold. The way he's able to just jam those brakes on, get that bike stopped, turned, and out of the corners is incredible. I love his riding style. He sits on the bike. He doesn't do this hang-off style, which could potentially hamper him if he did go to MotoGP. But I just love everything about Toprak Razgatlioglu. I love how he does his press debriefs. I love how he is with the fans. I just love everything about Toprak Razgatlioglu. And Yamaha have made big changes. They've had to. They've brought an updated engine. They need more horsepower to go up against Alvaro and that Ducati. They need more drive out of the turns. We saw Toprak suffer at a couple of races last year where, let's not forget Estoril, where he came out the final turn, lost in the drag race to the line with Alvaro Bautista because they just weren't getting the power down. They've brought a new swing arm. They've brought a couple of new pivot points and chassis designs and kind of things. So doing the work they need to do, Yamaha. It's still very much the same kind of platform R1 that we've seen for a couple of years now. So while there are a couple of updates, is it enough to go up against Alvaro and the Ducati? Well, he's proved it in testing. We know that Toprak is fast. He proved it in races last year. He can lead more laps than anyone. The problem is to come towards the end of the race when that rear tire loses a bit of grip and it's just not getting the grip out of the turns, and that's where Bautista just seems to come into his own on that Ducati, and he just maintains that grip level throughout the entire race. Toprak and the Yamaha have got to find a solution to just carrying that grip all the way through the race. I would love to see him win the world title again. I would love to see him win the world title and go into MotoGP as a full factory Monster Energy Yamaha rider potentially. I know there's the Red Bull tie-ins with Kenan Sofuoglu and Turkey and stuff, but that's the only problem with Toprak and potentially his move to MotoGP. There's just so many factors involved with it. But I would love to see him go to MotoGP. I would love to see him win a second World Superbike title because I think he deserves it. And then your job's done in World Superbikes. Go give MotoGP a go. So that is what I would like to see from Toprak Razgatlioglu, and I am very excited to not only watch the insane riding style that is Toprak on TV, but hopefully get out to some races as well. Alongside him in that team is Locatelli once again. Again, the man that dominated World Supersport a couple of years ago, a couple of years in World Superbikes now, but again needs to make that next step. He's just like Rinaldi. He's always kind of a step behind his teammate. Hasn't been able to get out of the Yamaha what Toprak's been able to get. So yeah, in the shadows there, and he needs to come out of the shadows a little bit because again, that is a really good ride that he's on there. And with all the other Yamaha riders that I'm going to mention now coming into the World Superbikes and into the fold, he's got to watch his back. So a big season for Locatelli. Testing has looked okay, but again, there's just this little bit of inconsistency. Always finds himself 2-3 tenths, half a second behind kind of the leading pack. So he needs to bridge that gap in the 2023 season to really make himself an established championship contender rather than just Toprak's teammate running in the top 6. Good job, well done Locatelli. No, he needs to take that step now, just as Rinaldi needs to do in the factory Ducati team. More exciting news for Yamaha is the GRT Yamaha team. They've got such a strong lineup, and these are two riders I'm very excited to see come into the World Superbike Championship. Dominic Agurta, we've seen him dominate the World Supersport Championship for the last couple of seasons, really has been dominant there. So great that he's got this opportunity to come up into World Superbikes with a good team, a team that knows the Yamaha brand better than anyone, a team that's been there, done it all before in World Endurance Racing, in World Supersport, in World Superbike. They really are tried and tested in the form of the GRT team. And in Agurta, I think they've got themselves potentially the find of the season, one of many that I'm going to mention here. But Dominic Agurta has proved his worth. I think he's done the hard work now, and it's time that he got this opportunity, and I think he's going to shine. He's already done really well in the testing up till now. Jerez was fantastic. Portimao was kind of finding his feet. Phillip Island still getting to grips there. He finished 9th overall, just inside that top 10 there. But yeah, I think there's going to be some great rides coming from Agurta this year. Just getting his World Superbike development in, and then 2024 onwards, we'll see the best out of Agurta. They're also aging a little bit, so he's got 2 or 3 more prime years in him, I think. But great to have him in the World Superbike Championship. Really looking forward to that. His teammate alongside him, Remy Gardner, the MotoGP outcast. Now, this is a big talking point. Even a Facebook post that I did, it just got thousands and thousands of likes and so many comments, because this really is a big talking point of Remy Gardner and how he was outcasted from MotoGP, and it's not fair. And I'm kind of sitting on the fence. I'm in both corners here, because yes, I do think that KTM maybe did handle it a little bit badly. He's Moto2 world champion. He was potentially put into MotoGP, and with no real future there. He was kind of given one season, maybe treated unfairly in certain circumstances, but I think Remy Gardner was his own worst enemy in many regards as well. I don't think he handled himself well when things weren't going right for him last year, just as Raul Fernandez did, his teammate in the Tech 3 KTM team. KTM do not like riders that kind of go against them or, don't follow that script, and that's kind of where the feud happened. But yeah, Remy Gardner, I sympathize with him a bit, but at the same time, I don't feel sorry, because in many ways he was his own worst enemy. And, he bit the hand that feeds, and finds himself out of MotoGP and in World Superbikes, where I think he's going to thrive. I think Remy Gardner and just his persona, the kind of person that he is, wasn't a MotoGP rider. You know, he's laid back surfer, Australian kind of dude. I don't think he wants that pressure of MotoGP. I think in World Superbike he's going to find himself a great home. What I will say is I think he needs more man management. If I look at riders in the past, you know, take Anthony Gobert for instance. Some riders have all the talent in the world, and Remy Gardner is a ridiculously fast rider. You are not a Moto2 world champion for not being one of the best riders in the world. He's got the talent. He just needs that man management in terms of how to handle the press. Listen, I know you're angry, but don't say this, don't do this. You know, because he really has just come out and just, you know, lambasted MotoGP, lambasted Kate. You can't do that. There's a bigger picture to this all. So he needs a little bit more man management there. Anthony Gobert was the same. You know, Anthony Gobert, if he had just had more man management, would have been a world champion, could have been one of the greatest riders we've ever seen. You know, you look at the likes of Stoner, you know, Lorenzo, Marquez, Rossi, Brad Binder does it brilliantly. You need to play that media game. You need to play the MotoGP game to be in MotoGP. And if you don't, you will be kicked out. And that's what happened to Remy Gardner. But like I said, I think it's a good thing. I'm excited to see what Remy Gardner will do in the World Superbike Championship. I think he's going to be a good, a brilliant contender once he gets comfortable on the Yamaha. He said that he's got so many bad habits from riding the KTM and wrestling it around in MotoGP last year that he finds himself overriding the Yamaha. So he needs to just, you know, take 2 steps back to try and go 1 step forward. So once he gets that balance right, I think he's going to be ridiculously fast. Keen to see how he goes at his home Grand Prix in Phillip Island this weekend. He was the top independent rider, or the second independent rider, I should say, in 7th place behind Philip Ertel in the Monday test at Phillip Island, and showed some great signs in the Jerez and Portimao test as well. So yeah, looking forward to what Remy Gardner can bring to the championship. Also on a Yamaha is Lorenzo Baldassari, making the move up from World Supersport, second in the World Supersport Championship in 2022. We all know the talent that is Baldassari. You know, was going to be the next Rossi, was dominating Moto2 at one stage and just fell off a cliff, and everyone just forgot about Baldassari. Reignited his racing career coming into World Supersport, but again, there's just this inconsistency with Baldassari. I don't know if it's because he's just this really tall rider, or if it's a mental thing, or again, looks like a rider that maybe needs a little bit more management, but just can't string it all together. We know the talent that is there, but he just can't bring it out and just can't bring it to the party when he needs to, or more consistently, basically. So he's in a really good team. Look forward to seeing how he will go. Testing hasn't gone fantastically well for Baldassari, so he's got a lot of work to do on that Yamaha of his. But exciting to have him in the championship, because I think on his day, again, one of the fastest riders and one of those guys that's not afraid to shove it up the inside and cause a bit of drama. So I think the likes of him, Agurta and Remy Gardner on those Yamahas coming into the championship, trying to prove themselves, I think it can only mean exciting stuff for the championship. Another Yamaha rider only doing the European round, so he'll only be racing in the European races this year, is British Superbike champion from 2022, Bradley Ray. Phenomenal talent. We know him from Red Bull Rookies Cup. Kind of a rider that got lost in the system, maybe in the Red Bull Rookies. Kind of like Rory Skinner. You know, we've seen so many Spanish and that made it from Red Bull Rookies into the MotoGP Championship and thrived. You know, Bradley Ray had some great rides in Red Bull Rookies, as did Rory Skinner, but they just never were able to make that next step. Like I said, kind of got lost in the system. Went back to Britain, made a name for themselves. Rory Skinner, as we know, is in Moto2 for full-time for this season. And Bradley Ray, a little bit disappointed that he didn't get a full-time ride in World Superbikes, but you know, Shaky Burns, his manager, and I think they looked at this and went, you know, we've done 150 million seasons in BSB, the champion there now, we've got to take the next step. So if this is a way to get into World Superbikes, prove ourselves in the European rounds with a couple of brilliant rides, if he can go out and contend top 10, potentially top 5, even podiums in some of the European races, that'll really put himself in the shop window for potentially that Locatelli ride in 2024 or one of those other Yamaha rides. The nice thing is there's quite a few rides available there, or factory Ducati ride if Rinaldi doesn't. There's a lot of options. So for Bradley Ray, this is a great way to get in the championship and just put himself in that shopping window going forward. So I think it's a good move. A little bit disappointed it's not full time, but the best option he had available. So looking forward to Bradley Ray at the European rounds. There's no doubt about that. On the Ducati side, touching on Ducati riders, going back to Ducati riders, again, another rookie, and it's crazy to talk about this guy as a rookie, but Daniele Petrucci is a rookie in the World Superbike Championship for 2023. He's on the Barney Ducati, had his season in Moto America, did really well there, won races, competed for the championship. Coming into World Superbikes, where he kind of should have been last year maybe, or should have been in the factory ride of Rinaldi. But anyway, he's in World Superbikes, and another great addition. He's a great personality. He's a hard fighter. I love the story of Daniele Petrucci coming from nothing to make it into MotoGP, 2-time Grand Prix winner. In World Superbikes now, there's going to be races where he's going to shine, and there's going to be races where I think he's not going to have the pace. I think there's going to be a little bit of inconsistency there from Petrucci, but either way, great to have him in the championship. Excited to see what he can do, because also another rider that wants to potentially show what he can do this year and put pressure on Rinaldi and some of the other factory riders to get himself a full factory ride for 2024. Philip Ertel is on a Ducati once again. He had a couple of brilliant rides in his rookie season 2022. He'll be looking to build on that. Rider that came from World Supersport as well, a rider that again came from the MotoGP paddock in Moto3 and Moto2, and has found a new life in World Superbikes. And that's what I love about World Superbikes is, we're kind of getting the outcasts and those kind of riders from MotoGP, but it just makes this championship more exciting because they just look more comfortable, and they're able to thrive and show their true potential because, again, they're comfortable. So that is pretty much the Ducati riders. Of course, there is Axel Bassani as well. Brilliant season in 2022. I still think he should have got the factory ride ahead of Rinaldi, but the factory, the Ducati maybe just didn't, something just didn't gel there. Maybe they're giving him more support, there's no doubt about that, and they want to see him potentially do it again. 2 consistent seasons, and we could find him in that factory Ducati ride. Testing hasn't gone well. He doesn't seem to be gelling as well with the 2023 package as he did with the 2022 package. There's more downforce, more aero on it. The power delivery is a little bit different, but just not gelling with that bike as well as he did the previous year. So let's see if Bassani can replicate what he did in 2022 or take that next step to get himself more often in those top 3 positions and look for that win. It's crazy to think after the season he had last year that he didn't win. Came close a couple of times, but he'll be looking for that victory in 2023. Kawasaki team, Johnny Ray and Alex Lowes. Johnny Ray still got the determination, still got the hunger to go out and compete. What is he, 36 years old now? Hats off to Johnny Ray. I'm a big fan of Johnny Ray. I still think he's got the speed, the mentality, the determination to go for a world title. I just think Kawasaki don't, if I'm being honest. Yes, they've bought a new engine, they've bought a little bit more top speed, again, more swing arms, more this, more that. They're looking for more traction, more electronics to open it up, and I just think the Kawasaki let Johnny Ray down last year. It's very much in competing against the R1s and the Ducati. It's old tech in many ways compared to those, and I just think his biggest handbrake is that Kawasaki. Johnny Ray is going to ride the absolute wheels off it. We know that. He will be competing for the top 3 week in, week out. He'll be, competing for race wins, especially at Phillip Island. We know the Kawasaki works there. It's kind of those start-stop corners. You got to brake late, square it off and get out. The Kawasaki really seems to battle. When I was standing trackside at a couple of races last year, you can hear coming out of the corners, that traction control is just kicking in all the time, just holding that bike back, where there's the Ducati and the R1 just kind of release the electronics. That Kawasaki was really just being held back a lot. So yeah, let's see if that new engine can help Johnny Ray, the new electronics, the new chassis updates, because I'd love to see him. It would be a great story to see Johnny Ray go out and win a World Superbike title, at this age against that competition. Will be a fantastic feather in his cap to Johnny Ray. His teammate Alex Lowes, pretty much another season of, a development rider in race situations. I think Kawasaki, the interview I had with him last year at Estoril, that's very much his role. He's always given pretty much a new bike with every single session that he goes out. So Kawasaki use him as very much a testing mule because he's, he's very fast in race conditions, and that's the perfect platform and perfect place to test parts is in flat out race conditions. So yeah, Alex Lowes, you can never expect too much. He's going to have some brilliant rides. He'll be on the podium, challenging for the podium, but ultimately, overall consistency to go for a world title, I don't think is there. But let's hope that he can help, potentially give Johnny Ray the the tools that he needs to go for this world title. I'm a big fan of Alex Lowe's and would love to go see him challenge for the world title, but realistically, his role within that team is develop, try this. So that is Alex Lowe's. Tom Sykes is returning Puchetti Kawasaki to the World Superbike Championship. I'm not a huge fan of this move, if I'm being completely honest. I like Tom Sykes, got nothing against him, was his biggest fan when he won the World Superbike Championship all those years ago. I just think, a can on chew potentially on that bike, or, there were other options for me on that bike. I would have taken a Bradley Ray on that bike rather. Tom Sykes, he had a terrible season in BSB, shocking season in British Superbikes. Look, the Paul Bird Ducati had a bad season in general, but yeah, it just, I don't see, kind of like Haslam in many ways, I don't see what kind of got him into this World Superbike ride again. Yes, I know he's a former World Superbike champion and that, but I think he's going to, he'll be top 10 rides and maybe the potentially top 5 rides. He could shock me and get top 3s and maybe even win some races, but yeah, I just think there could have been other options there for Puchetti Kawasaki. But again, good to have Tom Sykes back in the championship. I'm sure his fans will love it, and let's see how he goes. A little bit further down, they've got Oliver Koning, the Czech Republic rider. He's back on the Kawasaki. Still just development for that young rider. He was taken from World Supersport 300, thrown onto a Superbike last year, and his progression is carrying on there. Honda World Superbikes, Xavi Vierge and Ika Lakawona. Again, Honda at every test so far this year, they've had all the Japanese techs from HRC. There's a lot of support coming from the factory. They're just not finding the solutions at the moment on that Honda. They're just missing something. They're not getting the grip. They've also got new swing arms, new engine management, this. They just can't put it together. In the riders, they've got Ika Lakawona and Xavi Vierge. I think they've got the riders in Leon Camier in management level running the team. I think they've got the perfect team manager. The bike's just not there at the moment. So they need to make a big step. There's going to be race weekends where they are going to be up there, but overall consistency I think is going to be a problem for the Honda World Superbike team. So they've got to manage that, and they've got to try and get the best out of this inconsistent package that they've got. It's such a pity. They've also got two riders further down in the satellite team, in Eric Granado and Hafiz Shairin, who haven't done well in testing as well, been kind of at the bottom of the sheets. Granado, we all saw what he could do in Moto E, I should say. I've seen so much about Eric Granado, this talented rider that he is, but this is his first real chance at a full season in World Superbikes. Let's see what he can do. That team, I just think battles. I don't think it's the best team, that MIE Racing Honda team, but let's see what they can do. Let's wish them all the best and hope they can get the best out of that struggling package. Let's just call it that. BMW came into the championship. Remember that BMW that was 200 horsepower, traction control, all these electronics, kind of threw the rule book out. We're going to dominate everything. Haven't won a World Superbike Championship since then, and they've tried. They've thrown everything at World Superbikes, and they just haven't been able to pull it off. They've got this new M Sport 1000RR for the season, which I think looks fantastic. In testing in those full carbon kind of livery, it looked like a full spec MotoGP bike. It looks great in the factory colors and in the satellite team colors. Big changes for the factory team. At the races I was at present last year, and Scott Redding made it very vocal that braking was a big issue. They couldn't stop the bike, so they've made a big switch. They've gone to Brembo braking this year, and they've made a lot of other changes, swing arms, and of course the new wings, the new downforce. So a lot of changes to the BMW team. Doesn't seem to be working at the moment. Scott Redding, again, at the Phillip Island test, down in 13th. Van der Mark was 10th. The fastest rider was Garrett Gerloff in 8th place. So, yeah, not working for now. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but so far those changes, not what they wanted. They're still in development stages, but BMW have got to prove their worth now, because they've shouted and they've had the best production Superbike for so long. They just haven't converted it into any kind of great success in World Superbikes, and they need that to change. Scott Redding needs that to change, because he kind of said, goodbye factory Ducati. The bike that he left won last year's World Championship. Scott Redding was a top contender week in, week out on that Ducati. On the BMW, it's still a big question mark. Van der Mark comes into the season uninjured for the first time in a while. So we all know the speed that Michael van der Mark's got, but he's just had a torrid time the last couple of years with injuries and. So yeah, I'm keen to see van der Mark kind of just get back to, a couple of years ago where he was that rider that was potentially going to go to MotoGP. BMW need that Michael van der Mark to come out. Loris Baz, another season on the BMW. He was another rider that just complained bitterly about getting the bike stopped after a couple of laps. The brakes overheat and the bike doesn't stop. The lever comes to the bar, and he had a lot of complaints last year with the BMW, kind of the same as Scott Redding. The problem for them is they're two very big riders. They are two of the tallest and biggest riders in the paddock, and I think that really does hamper them. That really, really is a big handbrake for them. You're not going to be able to compete at 6 foot something against a tiny Alvaro Bautista on the best bike in the field. That is their biggest challenge. So Loris Baz, I've got a sit-down interview with him and Gerloff on Thursday, so keep a lookout on the channel for that. I'll be putting those interviews up, but a lot of work for them ahead of the season, a lot for BMW to prove. Garrett Gerloff, he, of course, makes the move from Yamaha onto BMW this year, and so far actually looks quite good. I'm keen to do the interview with him on Thursday to hear what he has to say, because he seems to be adapting well. Again, Gerloff came into World Superbikes, kind of was, blown up. He had that chance in MotoGP, was going to be the next American hope in MotoGP. Had a couple of bad races, took out top rack race Gariogli and Assen. Remember that? And his confidence levels just were shot down, and we haven't seen the same Garrett Gerloff come out. There's been glimpses, but we haven't seen consistently that Garrett Gerloff that we know can be fighting for race wins come out week in, week out. He's on the BMW now, albeit in the satellite squad, but there is a lot of factory support there. So really keen to get his thoughts in the one-on-one interview that I'm going to do there, because I'm a big fan of Garrett Gerloff. I must be honest, I really am a big fan, and I would like to see him and BMW do well. But yeah, the signs are there that it's going to be another Bautista, Toprak, and Johnny Ray battle. It's up to the likes of Rinaldi, Locatelli to get themselves in there, Scott Redding to do it more often, Dominica Goethe, Remy Gardner, Petrucci. They are just added flavor to this beautiful dish that is World Superbikes, and I'm so excited for the 2023 season to start. So I hope you liked this episode of Talking World Superbikes. As I said, stay tuned to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel for more brilliant content. Got those interviews with Garrett Gerloff and Loris Baz coming out later this week. Stay tuned. World Superbikes kicks off this weekend, the first bit of track action for the year. Phillip Island, what a place to start. That's where racing should always start. We haven't had it for a couple of years because of COVID and that, but World Superbikes back at Phillip Island, the island in Australia, and I think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Get yourself comfy this weekend, find yourself a nice comfy spot on the couch and enjoy it. Throw those garden tools away, throw the mop away, don't do the washing, don't do anything. Enjoy World Superbikes.